Hey there, welcome to another episode of an ongoing series where we basically take the camera anywhere we want to try to find secrets and new discoveries to some of our favorite games. And today we're going to be covering Earth, or life itself. Yeah, Earth is a classic game, but you know, it's got about as much staying power as Minecraft, so we're going to cover this today for you old school gamers out there. And we even have the game's developer as a guest on this show, God, to talk about some of the discoveries that we found here today. So with that said, let's get going. So the first thing I want to talk about is what's going on inside of the dishwasher. So normally when you load up a dishwasher and you close the dishwasher, that is the only time the dishwasher operates. If you open the dishwasher door, whatever function it has going on inside is completely unseen by the player. However, if you do take the camera inside of the dishwasher, you can see that there are jets that shoot water pretty much horizontally upward into all the dishes. And also these objects that shoot the water out also rotate as it's shooting the water out as well, completely removing all dirt and grime from the objects that you put inside the dishwasher. Not every dishwasher is the same, but this one in particular had 3 different apparatuses to shoot water from, making it a highly effective dishwasher. All right, is this next segment going to be a really interesting one? Yeah, alright, well, we'll see about that. Next up is the Magic 8-ball. A lot of people have Magic 8-balls around their house. However, it's actually really hard to get inside of one of these things. Most people don't even think to open it up. And keep in mind that this is one of the higher end Magic 8-balls. If you crack one open, you can see that there's a chassis that sort of holds everything in place. There's also an assembly code left by the developers, which is really cool. However, what I think most of us want to see though is what's going on with the Magic 8-ball message thing and how does it work exactly? Well, first of all, it's in a nice thick vial. And on the top of the vial is 3 screws. This is actually really convenient because these 3 screws is what essentially was used to seal all the liquid inside before injecting it in. So if we unscrew the 3 screws and then pour out all the liquid into another container, which I completely underestimated how much liquid is inside of this thing, and that's why I made a huge mess. Oh my god, that blue liquid is really dark and thick. It doesn't take much to make you look like a complete smurf. But with that disaster out of the way, we got all the liquid out, and now you can see the message die. The die is actually not a solid object. Instead, it is a cheap hollow object that is folded to give the multiple messages. In fact, you can see the crease that shows you inside of the die if you look really close.
Hey y'all, Scott here. Monologues.
Next up is a Scott the Woz video, and if you remove the YouTube layer from this video, as well as reapply the camera layer that is facing Scott the Woz, this allows us to see all the culled out objects that are actually out of bounds in any given Scott the Woz video. Like for example, you can see the Christmas tree that was used in the Collector's Edition 2nd edition. That tree is still kept out of bounds at any given time in any of his future videos. There's also a Meyer bucket over by his feet. Not only does this prove that Scott the Woz is in fact a Midwestern YouTuber, but it also gives you a little bit of developer insight. You see, YouTubers oftentimes use buckets to scream into to vent many of the day-to-day frustrations that they have in their day-to-day lives. Also, if you looked by the bucket, you can also see that Scott the Woz never wears shoes. Since Scott the Woz is always filmed from the chest up, he actually never needs to have shoes at any given time, which actually saves a ton of money on production for these videos. And then 1 foot away from his feet is Scott's computer where he works on his episodes. The only thing that baffles me is that he uses a fold-out chair to edit, and I don't understand how you can sit at a computer for that long with that crappy chair. But lastly, the one thing I want to talk about here is Scott's desk, because there is one leg on Scott's desk that actually has a binding around it. The rumor behind this bandage is that Scott's desk was actually ensnared in a bear trap, and due to the fact that Scott saved this desk's life, the desk has never left Scott's side ever since.
Thank you to Boundaries, and thank you for Monologues, because without Monologues, I don't know what the hell I'd be doing right now.
Next up, I want to show you what's inside of your sewers, or more specifically, your storm drains. In most neighborhoods, you'll find that there are manhole covers as well as storm drains. And of course, I wanted to take the camera inside and show you what it looks like inside of these storm drains. The truth is that it just looks like a square with a little opening that seems to go somewhere. And if you're not convinced, I even took the camera straight through the storm drain just to show you. By clipping through the storm drain itself, you will see the seamless transition from the storm drain to the drain pipes that are at the bottom. In fact, By getting all the way to the bottom here, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, which is pretty far away. And where that goes is a series of pipes that are all interconnected and tilted downward so that all of your stormwater can all go somewhere. But where does that stormwater go? Well, as it turns out, all those head walls that you might see in a local neighborhood or some pond or whatever, that's actually the exit hole of all these storm drains. So if you were to go around your neighborhood and try to look for a head wall, chances are, if it's the closest one in your neighborhood, that is where all your stormwater is going. Also, while I was checking around this neighborhood for the stormwater, I started to notice a couple things out of bounds. Over at this house, you might notice that there's a singular lawn chair that's tipped over. Well, if you take the camera through the wall next to this lawn chair, you can find a hidden outdoor storage box. This storage box is actually not shown anywhere else in the game of Earth. The only time you ever get to see it is when you're loading Earth for the first time, and there's actually a pre-rendered image of the said box. However, again, once you're in Earth, you never see this ever again. So I wanted to reach out to the game's developer, God, and see what he had to say about this.
So this outdoor storage unit was originally designed to be Pandora's box, which is where I was storing all the enemy units for Earth. And, well, obviously the intention was to remove that before the planet's release, but I was under pretty severe crunch time. I actually released Earth in 6 days, so there was a couple of things missed here and there that I kinda wish I had the time to remove. All the evils of the world was a bug I never actually intended to be in the final game. But well, you know how it goes.
Next up, have you ever noticed that when you load things on your computer, you hear like a very distinct clicking noise that you really don't hear anywhere else on the planet? I wanted to know what exactly that clicking noise was, and what I found out was that it's in fact your hard drive. And why does your hard drive make this noise? Well, if you take the cover off your hard drive, which I don't recommend you do, because if a single fiber of dust ends up on your hard drive, it can ruin your hard drive. So just don't do it. But other people have done this so that you can see for yourself that what basically happens here is that your hard drive has a giant plate that gets written and unwritten to, and the two noises that it's making is that when the disk spins, that makes the vroom. And there's also the needle that's writing all this data to your hard drive. So when it's writing that data, it makes this very distinct clicking noise that is basically the needle moving incredibly fast, which makes the noise. So now you know why your computer is making this noise. It's because of your hard drive. There you go. Okay, so now we're going to take the camera out of player bounds for McDonald's. Most players have visited McDonald's at one point or another, but how many of you have actually gotten past the counter at McDonald's? By moving the camera past the point where you're not supposed to go, you can see various things that are kind of crazy. Like, for example, the assembly line for the burgers themselves, but we'll get to that in a second. First, I want to take the camera all the way back here, where all the boxes for all the different things from McDonald's are individually labeled. Very clearly, mind you. If we pause the footage here, we can see that it says Simply Delicious Big Mac Container. And if we go in here, we can find a cooler. But what's even more surprising is that if we take a right, we can also find another cooler. It seems to be the freezer area. Here you can see various buns as well as a box labeled hotcakes. But if we go back to the assembly line, we can see how the burgers are actually made. See, here you can see all the different buns that the employees have to put through a heater, which slowly toasts the buns. And as they come out the other end, that's when the employee is able to apply mustard and ketchup through a gun. It seems that one pull of the trigger actually dispenses the exact amount of mustard and ketchup that every hamburger is supposed to have when ordered from McDonald's. Also, much to my surprise, the double quarter pounders with cheese appear to be assembled in halves, and then the employee closes the box to make both the sides meet each other, thus assembling the sandwich. And now we're going to go across the globe on Earth to get to a part of DLC that most players don't even get to experience because of how expensive it can be. But if you've ever accessed the Japanese DLC, you may have been overwhelmed by how much there is to even see in Japan itself. So a lot of people never even get to see this part of Japan where there appears to be an unused Sonic statue. What the heck is this Sonic statue even doing here? Now, this Sonic statue is really far outside the tourist area of Japan. So like I said, a lot of people don't get to experience this. But what is this Sonic statue doing here? As it turns out, this Sonic statue apparently used to belong to a Sega World location, which used to house a whole bunch of Sega arcades. Here is original footage of that statue, but once that place closed down, the statue was donated to the locals here, and what they decided to do with it is suspend it in midair by using sticks and metal bars and screws. And just as a little bonus, here's a picture of the Sonic statue from behind as well. The last thing I'll mention about this, of course, is that this statue was made during the time of Sonic and Knuckles, as you can tell by the image here. Okay, now we're going to be looking at Jay Slutty from another angle. The truth of the matter is that this single frame of Jay Slutty is attached to a video, and so if we reactivate the developer functions to turn on this video, we can see more frames of this FNV, which allows us to see Jay Slutty from angles that we were never meant to see. Next up is something that is absolutely absurd. I can't even replicate it, and I swear to you, this is real. When using Google VR, I visited the largest Superman statue in the world, and when I did, a 3D render of a Superman with black hands and a TV for a head appeared. There was no way for me to interact with this whatsoever. I also tried to use this in Google Earth Pro as well as Google Maps. Never appeared anywhere there, and it also never appeared ever again in the VR version that I found it in. So obviously this is insane. I don't know what to make of this, and I had to reach out to God yet again to ask him, why is this here?
Originally, I had the idea of making man in the image of TV instead of me. It was for sure one of those wacky late-night ideas that I later decided against. At the time, I thought maybe it'd be a little egotistical to make man in my image, so I thought, well, TV is pretty great. Maybe I could go with that instead. But ultimately, I think it was a better idea to go with me instead. Poor TV Superman. Forgot to remove him from a world he no longer belongs in. Please be kind to him.
Now, over in Kazakhstan, if we take the camera all the way up to this area, we can find a human-made pentagram. It's massive in scale, that's why you can view it from the satellite imaging. So what the heck is going on here? Now, it's not meant to be a satanic symbol. Calm down. It is actually just an outline of a star. That's all. It was made during the Soviet era, and it was originally just supposed to be a park. And it used to have monuments and flags and stuff like that, but it just got shut down, and it's just overgrown now at this point, allowed to fall into ruin. But I was able to pull up various pictures of what this pentagram looked like from different angles outside of this aerial view. But if a pentagram wasn't evil enough, let's move it all over to Chile, where you can find a giant outline of Coca-Cola. How is this Coca-Cola image picked up by satellite imaging? Well, if you take the camera down, you can see that the Coca-Cola logo is made up of various Coca-Cola empty bottles. Yeah, that's right. So basically, undisturbed for whatever reason is a whole graveyard of glass Coca-Cola bottles. And when you take the camera up close, you can see each individual one making up Coca-Cola. But I think a lot of you want to know what's going on with Earth itself, right? We've all seen what's on the surface of Earth. With enough money and resources, you could see the pentagram or the Coca-Cola logo. But what about inside of Earth? What's going on there? So if we take the camera inside of Earth, we can find the Earth's crust and core. There are 4 layers to Earth. There's the crust, which all of us are very aware of. Then there's the mantle, which is the one that kind of looks like a volcano. Then there's the core, and then there is the inner core. By moving the camera off to the side and taking the various layers out, you can kind of see what it looks like inside of Earth. It's kind of crazy to think about how thin the crust is of Earth versus something like the mantle. There's so much inside of our planet that we will never get a chance to see, and I just find that to be truly fascinating. Yeah, also there's this thing called desert breath in Egypt. Isn't that weird looking? It's funny how we always focus on crop circles and stuff, but then there's stuff like this that's just out in the middle of nowhere. Like someone or something really just took the time to make Warmonger's nipple from Black Panther. I'm really shocked. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you want another episode on Earth, because there's always a lot to cover, feel free to subscribe and wait a whole nother year before I do it again. I have a feeling this is going to be a one-off video, but we'll see. In the meantime, you can watch a lot more episodes of Boundary Break that cover other games, like, for example, Grand Theft Auto, as well as every single Mario game underneath the sun. I'll put those on the screen. Hopefully you check them out. Minecraft's another one. I'm gonna put that on the screen too. Okay, anyways, make sure you check out the credits, as well as the video description for any of the video footage I had to reference from other creators. Thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.